was only a matter of time before we saw Luisangel Acuña playing in the outfield. I actually think the Mets took too long because they should have done this from the moment they acquired him and started him in the minor leagues. But because the Mets had even tried it last year with Jeff McNeil and with the failure to sign Jose Iglesias, known as Candelita Iglesias, for me, this was a delay. The Mets had taken too long to get Luisangel Acuña practicing in the outfield. Do you see potential as an outfielder in Ronald's brother?
Yes, of course, absolutely. Luisangel has so much versatility. So much versatility. You can put him anywhere, and he'll get the job done. And having him like now on the bench or playing occasionally, I think that's a waste, wasting his talent. So, of course, Siri's injury is what also led them to suddenly make this decision to move him to the outfield. And I think Luisangel should take advantage of these opportunities that he's going to get in the outfield and show that he can do it, how to do it, and do it well.
Last year in AAA, there were a few games, there were 31 games playing as a center fielder. And with AAA Syracuse, where Luisangel split his time in 2024, some games, and not all of those games did he play fully in the center field. Some he played in center field, second base, and also at shortstop, etc. But it was a rotation he had where he did very well at the defensive level. And the Mets saw him, with the Texas organization, only 4 games in center field. Almost his entire career, or most of it, has been playing as a second baseman and as a shortstop. At the major league level, he still has no appearances. In the outfield, all have been as a second baseman, as a shortstop, and one as a designated hitter. But I see this move as key to finding that versatility the Mets need to get rid of that. That worry about what to do with McNeil when he returns, how to handle the outfield. Do I look for an outfielder? I think Luisangel Acuña's playing time has to be every day, and it's more than logical that Carlos Mendoza and the Mets look for an option to keep him there permanently. And it doesn't necessarily have to be as a second baseman, obviously not as a shortstop.
Of course, no. And as I said, he has to take advantage of this opportunity. He has to seize this opportunity and prove that he can do his job defensively. Because despite, as you said, most of his games have been as an infielder, I don't see it. I don't see that transition to the outfield being like Altuve's.
Of course.
Well, and the reason I don't see it the same is because of his youth. I mean, if you told me Altuve at the start of his career, at the same age as Luisangel, I'd say yes, a transition he could make easily. But because of his age, the youth he has, the versatility that Luisangel has, that's why I see he has to take advantage and will capitalize on those plays in the outfield. And of course, he has to hit. Obviously, we're clear on that. If he doesn't hit, he doesn't play.
Correct. The key there is hitting. The key isn't just being in a position nowadays. And that's where nowadays in the major leagues, it's so dynamic and everything depends on management and the needs of the teams. I mean, it still amazes me to see, like earlier today, we saw the lineup of the Houston Astros and saw Jose Altuve in left field. It still amazes me because, as you said, it's not the same. To switch a player like Luisangel Acuña, who's just starting his career, who only has a couple of years, who's trying to find his true place in baseball, how to be competitive, to play every day, to seek that longevity in his career. Unlike Jose Altuve, who's an established player in his position, and not just established in his position, but a man established in his position who also has Hall of Fame projections, has won gold gloves in his position, and is recognized among the best in his position. So the circumstances for both are very, very, very different. Notice that Altuve has handled this with incredible grace. In that sense, I tip my hat to Altuve for the way that he's handled this for the good of the team. Even though Altuve has done well with the change and continues hitting, he's doing his part. He avoids responsibility like Pontius Pilate on Good Friday and says, "Brother, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. You pay me a big check. And if you want me to paint the wall green, I'll paint the wall green for you. Here I am, calm. What the team does is what the team does. The team right now isn't performing as they expect. I don't think this will last forever with the Houston Astros, but the circumstances are different. And I think it will benefit the Mets a lot to have Luisangel Acuña in the outfield, even though I saw one of the comments, I think, Ulysses, that also said, here it is, that they are going to try him in center field, says Ulysses Mesa, obviously a New York Mets guru. And he says the center fielder of the Mets' future is the prospect named Jet Williams. Probably yes. That's probably the Mets plan. Now, if Luisangel Acuña becomes a premium center fielder in the major leagues, Jet Williams has no chance there, and the plans change.
One of the two becomes a trade piece.
Of course, absolutely. And I think Acuña just needs playing time alongside this guy. Notice that if you manage to establish Luisangel Acuña as a hitter in the major leagues, when I say complete, I mean consistent, complete, accomplished. Whether he's going to be a hitter, a contact hitter, then he's competing for that batting title with guys like Luis Arias. If he's going to be a guy able to make contact, well, he has to.
He has to. I think they have to give him a chance. They have to give him playing time so he can define himself as a hitter. What is Luisangel Acuña going to be? Is he going to be a power hitter, a contact hitter, or a complete hitter who gives you 25 home runs, a 301 average, an on-base percentage of over 400? That's what you need to see. But to be able to define what type of hitter Luisangel Acuña is, you have to give him a chance to play. You can't keep him on the bench and just play him occasionally.
Correct. He's not a bench player at this stage. He's not a bench player. He's someone you need to have in action for that. I agree with you. So we'll see what happens with the New York Mets and how they handle this saga of this little story that's just beginning called Luisangel Acuña. It's a good headache to have him. The Mets, on the other hand, today are still at the top of the division with 12 wins, 7 losses, and the New York Mets team facing the St. Louis Cardinals today, a game that starts very soon as well. Today for the Mets team, David Peterson is scheduled, looking for his second win of the season. And for the St. Louis Cardinals, Miles Nicholas, who hasn't won this season and has done very, very poorly. 0-2 with a 9.00 ERA. The St. Louis Cardinals are also a team that still hasn't found that identity, that danger of the St. Louis Cardinals, which perhaps remains in the past in recent years. What they had in recent years is no longer visible. And well, this series begins an interesting one for the Mets to continue gaining an advantage and seeing what the St. Louis Cardinals can do, who are just 2 games out of first place but with inconsistencies.
Well, regarding St. Louis, I don't understand what they're doing because at the winter meetings, the general manager said that it was going to be a year of changes and they were going to start fresh. And so far, I don't see that they've started that process.
Here's today's lineup for the Mets, with Lindor at shortstop, Juan Soto in right field, Pete Alonso at first, Jesse Winker as the designated hitter, the Nicaraguan Dominican-American Mark Vientos, and also Puerto Rican Mark Vientos at third base, Brandon Nimmo in left field, Luis Torrens as catcher, Brett Beatty at second base. Today we have Tyrone Taylor in center field, and as pitcher, David Peterson. And there's the photo of Puerto Rico's captain for the Classic.
I don't understand. I'm not going to paint them all with the same brush, but I don't understand the Mets fans who are stuck on Soto, yet they're in first place. Explain that to me.
Well,
they'd rather have Soto hitting, I don't know, 350 and you study Soto.
You hate Soto.
No,
it doesn't mean you hate Soto. No, folks. No,
of course not.
Obviously, the opposite of it.
I've always said that Soto is one of the best, one of the top 3 hitters in the major leagues.
He's one of the 3. But if you don't say he's the
number 1, put them in whatever order you want. Put him, no. That's already a page turned. Turn the page, Mets fans. Turn the page, move on. We've already moved on.
Oh, we've already moved on. Did you hear that, Ulysses? We've already moved on.
We already have another number 22.
Oh, my God. When you have Ben Rice, you don't need Juan Soto. What do you think? Well, this is MLB Live, and we are live on SportMax News and on the entire Diamond 23 network. We'll take a break, identify ourselves, and come back with more.